Welcome to the North Star Podcast, a podcast that is brought to you by 4 seasoned heathens. Our podcast is going to be essentially ongoing conversations about heathenry and the world. Certainly not introductory conversations, but hopefully conversations that would be accessible to any thinking person who is willing to listen to conversations about the world and how our heathen worldview affects it. Yeah. So I'm Garrett Gronwald. I have been a heathen since, I guess, 1990, which I'm told is a long time. I've been specifically theodish since 1994. I am here with 3 of my friends, all of whom are named Nick, so they will usually be called by their last names. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Nick Ritter. I have been a heathen for about 34 years, theodish for 30 of those. I tend to approach things from both a scholarly point of view and an artistic point of view. I have a background in a few different things, linguistics among them. I've studied comparative religion, history, archaeology. I spend a lot of my time thinking about heathenry and trying to get back to what we might think of as an original heathen point of view of looking at the world. I take a lot of inspiration from something that Wilhelm Grönbeck said regarding reaching that wellspring of thought from which everything else runs out as a matter of course when we're talking about heathenry. And a lot of my aim throughout my religious life is to try and achieve that point of view and then turn around and look at the world I live in from that point of view.
Hi, my name is Nick Ferraro. I've been a heathen for about 20 years and theodish for 11, 12 of those. I'm not much of a scholarly type. I like to really focus on the more applied type of heathenry, and focus on learning how to live that on a daily basis. So that's me.
And I'm the third Nick. I've been in Theodism and heathenism for 10 years. I studied rhetoric in college, which is something that I think kind of informs how I look at theodism and heathenism. Originally got into it around the time of college. I had kind of a falling out with Christianity, and I was kind of searching for something meaningful to structure my life, and kind of flirted around with Buddhism and Hinduism, and then I met Nick Ferraro about 10 years ago, and then just kind of found something authentic in heathenism, and I would say I can approach it scholastically, but I would agree with Ferraro in that I try to, and I think all of us in, trying to approach it honestly, whenever I try to look at the scholarly side of things, that it's not for being scholarly itself, like it's to enhance the personal side of things. So, that's all of us. And, I think kind of next, we just kind of wanted to talk about what we wanted to do with this podcast. Like, what is the real purpose?
Right. So I guess the way that I think of that, let's back up a little. I listen to a number of podcasts. I have time to do that. I work from home and I can have things playing in the background while I am working. I put them on while I'm washing dishes. I do all this kind of thing. I also have to drive long distances sometimes related to work, and they're on in the car. So I listen to a fair number of podcasts. The ones I really enjoy are the ones where you actually have interesting people having conversations about things that are interesting. Now, it sounds pretty lame. It's like I just said The good podcasts are the good ones. But nonetheless, there are some podcasts where there's clearly sort of an agenda involved, where it's like, I'm going to tell you how you should be or why you should be or something like that. There are some where the whole purpose seems to be to show off to the world what, particular sort of socio-political tribe you belong to or something without necessarily going very deep into anything. I like the ones where someone comes on there and says, we're going to talk about, I don't know, this book. We read this book. We're going to talk about this book. And they use the book as sort of a jumping off point to get into certain sort of interesting and deep topics, which by the time the podcast is over may not even be related to the book. My thought with what we're doing here is that we are four guys who have a lot of conversations among ourselves. Our conversations often leap from one place to another and end up in territory that was entirely unknown to us at the very beginning. And we thought it would be fun to share it with anybody out there who wanted to listen. So here we are.
All right. I guess what I'm interested in this podcast is, over 3+ decades of being a heathen, I've been able to gain what I feel is a lot of insight that isn't really readily available out there, and I wish it were. I think that the things that I've learned are worth communicating to others so that they're not lost. And what I'm hoping we can achieve, the four of us, through this podcast, is to have some conversations where some of those insights come to light. Because it's not just me, it's the entire crew here. I think everyone here has some very valuable insights that help to make the religion that we practice something more present in the world.
Yeah, I think for me, a couple of things that I wrote down. It's just the personal, like our personal experiences, like living this as like a way that guides our life. Like I think sometimes like heathenism can become like a costume that you put on. And like, I think that the way that we try to live is, authentic and personal. And I think there's a certain amount of like sharing that experience that kind of like happens on this podcast as we kind of maybe take a source material and then wander, weaving in some of our own thoughts and ideas and like testing stuff out. Like, I think it's a testing ground for us to all kind of learn because it's something new to us. And like you said, Ritter, it's new religion in general. And I think, we're all kind of figuring it out. So I think part of the charter of this podcast is just to kind of, grasp around in the dark and try to figure out, map out the landscape that we're kind of heathenism. I think we should also mention what is theodism. We've mentioned that word, and people might recognize heathenism, but
right. So theodism is a sort of particular type of heathenry. Theodism, it comes from Anglo-Saxon theodish Yeleva, the belief of the tribe. It was founded in the 1970s by a man named Garman and continues on to this day. It differs from sort of more standard heathenry, I suppose, in terms of being more focused on a sort of tribal structure. The idea being that we worship as a community, not as individuals. Not that we don't also worship as individuals, but we are a community. And there's sort of a hierarchy involved. There's a way in that's a little difficult to, makes it a little difficult to get in. We have just sort of a different set of ideals maybe than some other heathens, but fundamentally it's about a community identity, a tribal identity that is a constructed tribal identity. Admittedly, it's a tribe that we have constructed ourselves, based on ancient tribes, but our tribe. And it is the belief that's associated with that. Yeah.
Can we all riff on that?
No. Oh, no.
It's
You can't talk anymore. None of you. It's all me now.
That's that hierarchy.
That's right.
Yes.
So this podcast will consist entirely of Gerd saying things and the rest of us agreeing.
No, I don't even want to have to listen to you guys agreeing. It will just be assumed. All from now on will be you guys watching me talk. This will be great fun for everybody.
So for people who might not be familiar with theodish belief as a sect of heathenry, one of the, what do you call these? Like an elevator speech definition that I would give is that all forms of heathenry are attempting to practice Germanic religion. The differences in definition come in how do you define Germanic religion and how do you define that practice. Can't speak for any other form of heathenry, but I would say that in theodish belief, we feel that in order to practice Germanic religion, we have to practice it as much as possible the way it was practiced before conversion, which is a tall order, right? There's a lot of gaps there. So some people might ask the question, well, can that ever actually be done? Aren't you setting yourself up for failure if that's the standard that you're holding yourself to? And it's important to hold that standard not loosely, but to be somewhat gentle with ourselves when we're applying it. We do our best to practice Germanic religion as it was practiced before conversion to the best of our knowledge and ability, and we are constantly trying to push forward our knowledge and ability, and that creates there are some implications to that regarding research and regarding the importance of actually trying to do things that might be difficult in the modern day, but were definitely a part of the religion in ancient times. And that is what results in kind of the different flavor of heathenry in comparison to some of the others.
And I do think that, a few things can be said about that. First of all, ideals are often not necessarily meant to be met, right? You have an ideal, ideally I would like to be a kind person, right? At least to my friends. On occasion, I probably am not. In fact, I know that I am not on occasion. Most human beings are not. The ones who are, I worry about. There's always a moment where something falls short. That doesn't mean that you give up the ideal, right? Ideally, I would like to have perfect health, never have illness, etc. But the fact that I'm never going to achieve perfect health doesn't mean I don't take being healthy as an ideal, right? I seek to be healthy, even though, I may occasionally not be. So yeah, our ideal is ancient Germanic culture and the religion they followed. Primarily the religion they followed. The culture in a certain sense is maybe secondary because we are quite well aware that we don't live in it. Nonetheless, we try to live as much in accordance with their values as we possibly can in today's world. That might mean some of our practices alter a little, but if we can keep those practices, we keep them, because why not? Because the ideal that those practices were developed from is our ideal, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
I was just going to add that I think, there's a certain amount of preservation of the ideas and practices and also innovation. Like we're trying to push them forward, as well as recognize like what is, and kind of negotiate between the two on when to kind of innovate on the religion and find new ideas, because that's what our religions do. They grow like a plant.
As a living tradition.
Yeah. And so to expand it, and I think that's also part of the mission of this podcast is look backwards and also forwards.
There should be sort of a creative tension between an unmoving, eternal, let's say, maybe truth at the center of a religion, and the different sorts of expressions that truth has in the actions of the people following that religion, I would say. As long as you don't give up that central part, the rest, it will change, but that doesn't mean the religion has been changed or abandoned or whatever. It's when you give up the central part, things go bad. But this does mean that, certainly while we are trying to reconstruct parts of ancient society, some things will be different, and there will be some level of innovation, but that innovation is to further the expression of that central, unchanging core. Now, our personal problem as modern humans is that, part of the conceit of our religion is that people a long time ago had a better sense of what is holy and what is right than people do today. I would even go so far as to say very clearly that this sense of what is holy and what was right was not just changed, but was destroyed and perverted by the conversion to Christianity. And unfortunately, that conversion led to the destruction of the understanding of that core. So the two things that we're doing really are, number one, we are attempting to rediscover that eternal core of the religion, the actual eternal truths that are at the center of who we are as heathens. And we are trying to develop correct ways to express them. And sometimes we have to do this backwards, right? We start with actions that are described in ancient texts or wherever that we maybe don't understand why they did things this way, but we understand they did. So we do them to see if we can figure out why. But so it's complicated. And I think we may be moving a little bit past, hey, let's have a quick introduction to what this is, and into, maybe what should be an episode of our show.
I agree. So thanks for listening to kind of the trailer of this, the charter episode, as it were, of the North Star podcast. We are going to release every new moon, and we'll kind of lay out when the next one will be released. And you can check out our first episode, What is Religion, in the show page.
Very good. And I would ask some leniency here. I have listened to a number of different podcasts, some of which have been on for a long time. And I do note, especially the ones that are really good now that have been on for years, those first episodes sometimes sound a little cringy. So I suspect we may not be aware of how cringy we are. Hopefully it's not too cringy.
There are we're recording this after we've recorded like 11 episodes, and there are some technical difficulties that we will figure out. So again, we're working out the kinks, and we'll get there.
Bear with us. The conversation is worth it.
Hopefully.